All right, guys, this is Hard Abs. Welcome back to JEWELCAST. This is episode number 3. We have a very special guest for everyone today. You guys might know him. His name is Taiki. He is basically the LP farmer extraordinaire, right? So everyone knows him on YouTube. He's got like 80, thousand subs on YouTube. Very impressive. And so we'd like to welcome Taiki Maeda to the Jewelcast today. I am accompanied by the usual low DeFi and superior form. And so basically, Taiki needs no introduction as he's very well known throughout the DeFi space. I personally have followed Taiki on YouTube over the last year and his amazing strategies on yield farming on different ecosystems. And I remember the very first video I watched from you was basically when you farmed on Matic and you earned like 10,000 Matic tokens for free, which is just ridiculous. Um, and also, side note, very bullish on Matic, by the way, with all the fundamental news. Um, I also, can't forget about the multiple videos about the Stegosaurus theory. I followed that pretty religiously with Dino Swap, and all that. So all in all, you are obviously an asset to the DeFi community, and continue to give us amazing alpha every single week. And so, all right, back to DeFi Kingdoms. I really want to open up the first question by asking about the Gen Zero you gave away. Um, I think Superior has a really good story with that, but I wanted to know about this Gen Zero you gave away. I hope it isn't too soon for me to ask, but we're all just, our jaws were dropping at that point in time when you were doing that. But do you know what the floor is now for Gen Zero, Taiki?
Uh, I don't know. What is it? Oh, by
Ready
the way,
up.
thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah,
Thank you,
of
everyone.
course.
Of course.
It's five. Okay,
So if you do
that
that
is very
math,
high. That's like 40
uh,
grand.
maybe above that, because I think the price of jewel right now is at 771. So if you do that math, I don't want to.
Oh, it's seven. Oh shit, it pumped a lot. Nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, look
Yeah.
at that. Jewel is very bullish at the moment.
Yeah,
No,
I
no,
saw the
Taiki.
chart. Yeah, what's up?
Uh-huh. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Sats posted a chart of the Jewel one pair, or like the Jewel to one ratio,
Oh
and
yeah,
I've
right here.
often maintained this idea that like, oh yeah, that one. It's pretty ridiculous. Like I don't really own that many one tokens. Like I'm not that particularly bullish the one token, because I feel like you can just farm Jewel and you'll capture the upside exposure of the Harmony ecosystem. And even if the Harmony ecosystem doesn't pan out the way people want it to, Jewel they're expanding cross chain, so I feel like it's a higher upside and lower downside play. And that's one of the reasons like farming Jewel makes a lot of sense. Like I mean, look at that chart, right? I mean, like you can just hold one and like stake it for like 8%, or you can just farm it at like 600 to 800% or whatever it is now. And it's one of the most comfiest farms that I've ever been a part of because I mean, yeah, it just keeps going up, and the fundamentals are there, the APRs are there, and even how the farms are structured. Um, it's really smart, just because most of the rewards are going to like the jewel pair. If you look at like the pure farm and dump LPs, like a bunch of rewards go to like the stablecoin pairs, Bitcoin ETH, and like ETH USDC. But ultimately, you do want to reward people that hold a native token. And Dreamer touched on this too, but I think that's one of the reasons why Jewel has done so well. Because there's in-game utility, and like if you want to farm Jewel, you have to own Jewel.
Like,
Yeah, Superior, really quick. Yeah, I mentioned it earlier that Superior had a really funny question. Or sorry, funny story about your Gen Zero giveaway.
yeah, so after Taiki gave away his Gen Zero giveaway, I was in another giveaway with Tosh myself, and we were just kind of giving out regular heroes. But then a whole bunch of people afterwards approached me and they're like, dude, we heard that you gave away a Gen Zero. Oh my God. And I'm like, I think that was me. But at the time, I didn't realize it was you, Taigi. So that's actually pretty cool. Like when you gave that Gen Zero away, was it like a few weeks after mint, or?
It was when I gave it away, the USD value was like 14 grand. I
Oh,
think. So okay, essentially the backstory is okay. So I have obviously there's that YouTube channel, but I have a YouTube channel. I don't run ads. I don't do paid promotions. That's how I try to maintain my ethos. So yeah, there's that video. So essentially, when I first contacted the DeFi Kingdoms team, Flu and Fox, I just wanted to talk to them and figure out like what their vision was. This was like back in early September.
I see.
And I was like, okay, like my first question was like, hey, like, are you gonna rug me? And then they're like, no, we're not. Don't worry, Taiki, we're not gonna rug you. So I'm like, okay, sounds good. I'll try farming. And at the end of the call, they asked me if I wanted a hero, right? This NFT. And I don't take paid promotions, but I'm like, okay, I'll take an NFT, right? Because at the time I didn't understand the future value of these heroes. So when it started pumping and like the heroes like was like worth like 10, 15 grand, I felt kind of weird like holding this just because I felt like privileged, right? Just because I have a YouTube channel, I got this for free. And that didn't, I mean, that doesn't go along with my ethos. There was like some cognitive dissonance there. So I figured I might as well give it away. And I'm farming Joel anyway, so like I'm gonna capture all the upside anyway. So I mean, right now, I guess I'm coping. It's like 50 grand or something, or whatever it is now. But
So,
you know,
so was that your only hero?
yeah, that's my only hero. Yeah, I wish I minted them. I knew about the mint, right? And at the time, I was like, yeah, I can mint this hero for like $1,500, but I'm just gonna farm Jewel, and if the game works, I'll just be rich off that. But I think in hindsight, I should have hedged by just like buying or minting one or two heroes. I mean, hindsight's 2020, but yeah,
But let me ask you a follow-up question on this too. Like, what were the fundamentals that specifically to this project that kind of really finally drew you in?
yeah. So how I think about it is like I'm a multi-chain farmer, right? I'm not like a maxi for any chain. I just try to bridge everywhere, try using the ecosystem, see. And the question I ask myself is like, can I see other people using the chain? Because if I enjoy the chain, then that probably means that in the future this chain could get further adoption. So I think in early September I bridged to Harmony. I tried out like Viper, and I'm like, this is like the basic fork. Checked out DeFi Kingdoms. I'm like, okay, like this is pretty cool. I mean, I like the music. Songs are insane, and it had no fundamentals back then. It was like a shitcoin, right? Like back when it was like $1. But I wanted to commit myself. So essentially, I just put like 1 or 2% of my capital into the jewel farms, just so I'm forced to track it. And then, like the moment those Gen Zeros sold, like the mint lasted like 10 minutes. That was when I was like, holy shit! Like this is like, there's so many eyeballs on this. I kind of tripled down on that initial investment, and obviously I wish I put more into it, but like it's big enough to the point where like I'm happy with like how I've allocated. And that's the thing with like farming, right? Like you don't have to bet everything all at once. You can just
right.
bet 1% or something, track the fundamentals, and then triple down like once like the fundamentals get there. And yeah, you're gonna buy like higher and whatever. But if you're macro early into a farm, then it doesn't really matter what your entry price is as long as you're farming it up at like these ridiculous APRs. And I used to be farming and dumping Jewel to like buy the one token. But ever since the Gen Zero got sold out, all I've been doing is like accumulating. Like I haven't sold any. I'm just like letting it sit in the garden.
Wow.
And I got a bunch of Jewel.
That's what happened to me too, because and Superior can attest to this too, is we got into the farms very early, and I've been farming on Harmony since March, and with pretty much every other farm, it's something I have to keep an eye on because was always worried about the farm token just getting dumped on or getting rugged and so I would get those rewards, sell them straight to one, instead of maybe compounding or just accumulating with the way the locking schedule works, and like I think that's true too, is it's good to mitigate your risk, which is something you talk about a lot. And you don't have to go all in or ape in right away. It's better to you know get some skin in the game, build your conviction, and then, because how many times is a project like DeFi Kingdoms going to come around? For every DeFi Kingdoms, there's, thousands of other, coins and farms that are just going to go to zero. So,
Yeah, it's you have to protect the risk of ruin. And I think maybe I put like 5% of the portfolio into this. I have to double check, but something along those lines. And like now it's my third largest position.
Wow.
behind
In your
the
entire
Canadian.
portfolio?
Yeah. The sum of the sum of my LPs and Jewel is like my third largest position. And like if this keeps working, like I'm not planning to sell anytime soon because I'm like very convicted. So like if this flips my Bitcoin or ETH stack, it's like like that's great.
Yeah.
I'm
And
very bullish Crystal Veil.
how many pools are you in?
I'm just in two. I'm in Jewel 1 and Jewel USDC.
Okay.
In hindsight, that was like those are awful decisions. But
Can you
I,
share with the audience why you feel like those were awful decisions?
I mean, it's only obvious in hindsight, but I entered a Jewel USDC just because I thought that token wouldn't do that well, just because of the high emissions. So if the token ranges from like $2 to $4 or whatever, like the Jewel USDC pool will do really well for like little impermanent loss and whatnot. Obviously now, like I see that there's so much demand for it, so I'm probably gonna change it in the new year. Excuse me. I'm just waiting to adjust my positions because of like tax implications. If I claim and like withdraw, then I'm gonna like realize a bunch of capital gains, and I don't want that. So I'll probably switch it up in the new year. But yeah, and also I'm in the Jewel 1, which is also bad because I'm like not that bullish to one token. So.
But at the
I'm just-
beginning, that was one of the first pools you could get into as well, with the
Yeah.
highest emissions. So,
Yeah, maybe I just chose the lesser of evils at the very beginning, but now that there's like Jewel Luna, Jewel AVAX and stuff, I feel like those are much better than like Jewel 1. Maybe I'm too bearish one, but that's my thoughts.
And what's something to realize too is like the price action of Jewel is very, unlike most farm tokens, like you mentioned, the emissions are very high and they've been very high. But you can see that Jewel has just remained bullish and in demand, even with the amount of, increasing circulation we are regularly having. And a lot of that is due to the higher utility of the token, but it's definitely quite, an anomaly in that sense of, a lot of people, are worried about impermanent loss, and I see people mention that too, but it's weird when you're incurring impermanent loss because the farm token is going up so much rather than the opposite, which is usually what happens.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And I think so I have a working theory on like why there hasn't been that much like dumping, right? Because I'm sure there are like a bunch of early farmers that's like holding a bunch of Jewel, right? And if they sell, it's not going to be good for the price. Or maybe they have been selling, but like the buy pressure has been outweighing it. But essentially, like with like the lockup mechanisms, right? Like every week for every epoch, it's like 2% gets unlocked more. It kind of rewards early users, right? Early farmers.
right.
And I think the early farmers are like the people that's like the most bullish this project, just because they've been tracking it since like week 1, week 2. So I think there's like this dynamic where like the people with like the highest Jewel like amounts positions, like they're not selling just because they just believe in like the short, medium, and long term, and especially with the Crystal Veil stuff, with like you can stake your Jewel to earn Crystal. Like that's probably what I'm gonna do. I'm not even gonna sell my Jewel. I thought about selling my Jewel, but I might just take all my Jewel, it's my bags, and just dump it in the Crystal staking whenever that launches, and just like farm all the power tokens. And I feel
Also,
like
wait,
Yeah.
really quick, yeah. If you do sell your Jewel, can you please tweet out first, and then, or I guess maybe
Don't-
let us know.
don't worry, sir. I'm not gonna sell my Jewel. Not anytime soon. I will
Well,
sell at some point, though. I think we all should sell at some point, but yeah.
Right.
one of the other things to piggyback off of what you're saying, Taiki, is with that weekly 2% unlock model that they have, what's interesting is the biggest bag holders who have been farming from like week 1 and week 2, if you never hit that claim button, even up until now, you can hang on all the way till July, okay, to hit that claim button. You could
100%.
essentially unlock your jewel.
All at once, yeah.
So it's like an interesting dynamic because there's like the folks like you're saying, Taiki, that want to hold it, and then there's the folks that are like, I want to hold it to unlock it all at once at the end of July. Like I know a guy with 600,000 locked coins. He's refused to hit the claim button because he's waiting till July. But like you're saying, once AVAX comes along, will people even want to dump? I think we all are going to want to move over and get some crystal tokens.
Yeah, exactly. And there's like game theory involved here too. Like maybe people front run the July sale by like selling in May, or maybe people just like over. I mean, like I've heard so many arguments of like, I'll tell you, like it's new epoch. Like, do you think there's gonna be a dump? Like
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I mean maybe, but like I don't like care because like I just check this. I just check my gardens like, a few times a week, and I just see jewel pumping and like my amount of tokens going up, and I don't really think too hard. And that's, I feel like I'm a farmer in the sense that like, my time is limited, so I always have to be on the lookout for new opportunities, like across other ecosystems, right? I'm not a Harmony maxi by any means.
Right.
So yes, I could learn the game, but like like the expected value of my time, I feel like is better allocated into research. So that's why I haven't played the game. But I understand that like if I learn the game, I can make more money and stuff. But maybe you guys can convince me why I should own a gardener or like whatever, like a miner or whatever
Yeah, and
later.
that's really interesting because we're on the eve of the gardening quest being released. And now this is going to add, an extra element to the gardens and the LPs by now really starting because with the quests we have out so far are foraging and fishing, which are a little bit separate. You're utilizing the hero NFTs, but we're not necessarily interacting with the LPs like we are about to with the gardeners and the miners as well. So now we're kind of starting to, bridge that gap between these two different elements of DeFi Kingdom. So it is, yeah, it is going to be really interesting to see um, the returns because we still don't know a lot of information about gardening and how it's truly going to impact the LPs. So I know
Yeah.
Superior has been, very bullish on the heroes, and we're really excited to see what's to come because I think this might usher in just like the next true stage of DeFi Kingdoms, the utility of these heroes, and continuing like the bullishness that we have and seen for Jewel.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and obviously, I think not just myself, but the community as a whole, we kind of got to see a glimpse of just how powerful these heroes could be from like a money making aspect when the wishing well came out. Because you look at the tiers price the first 2 3 days, people were making crazy money off of the tiers. Folks were making a lot of money off of recycling heroes, pretty much minting Gen 2s, minting Gen 3s, reselling them, minting them again, going back on quests. And so I think kind of just like what Low DeFi said, with the gardens coming out between later today and possibly very early tomorrow, we're looking at just more utility coming out, right? Like the gardens is supposed to improve people's LPs. And so I think from that perspective, like a farming perspective, the gardens really helps out the farmer. It's probably one of the bigger incentives for the whole ecosystem right now. What do you think about that, hard abs and low DeFi?
I mean, I was also thinking about the mining aspect. I was going to comment on that earlier, but I'm sure Taiki, everyone here has locked Jewel. I mean, I'm particularly excited about the mining aspect because, listen, I want that Jewel to be out. I want to mine it, and I basically want to use the Jewel that I mine with my heroes. You know, uh, to buy, sell, heroes to summon more with my Gen Zeros. I think there's a lot of opportunity when it comes to owning heroes with each particular profession.
Yeah, and I think since we don't have any numbers on it, there's still speculation on exactly how much we can earn per day and depending on how much you want to invest in these heroes, because again, something we talk about is a lot of these heroes aren't necessarily cheap USD wise. I mean, we got the cheapest at 40 Jewel, but then you start looking into gardeners, looking into more, successful, better gardeners. You're going to see a premium on those. And then, trying to figure out how long is it going to take to pay off this price based off of the rewards you get. And the way as much as I know about gardening so far is we're able to send a gardener into the LP that we have and earn rewards primarily based off of your pool share percentage. So there's definitely incentive to maybe, spreading out, having, larger pool shares in some of the smaller pools, being spread out within the pools, and then seeing how, with these heroes, a lot of it's you get what you pay for. So if you have a better hero, you might be receiving more jewel rewards that have been accumulating in the quest fund through, I think, transaction fees and taxes that have been going through the ecosystem right now. And the same thing with the miners, where we have, there's a lot of people that have they're looking at their locked balance daily, seeing, with Jules' price increase, you're seeing a lot of life-changing money in there. And you're like, and that's something that got me interested in with the heroes in the first place is the locking model and
Yeah.
seeing that, oh, I can take one of my heroes and get some of that locked jewel balance out early um, by utilizing these heroes. And I think everyone's, really eyeing that. And you can see that just through the market where miners have a much higher premium on them. So, and I think
Yeah.
the way you approach it, Taiki, is, you're looking at this from, a returns, mitigating risk, you know, what's the best, most efficient, safest, consistent way for me to continue my yields. And, we're starting to, emissions are still incredibly high and they've been high and they're slowly decreasing over time. So I'm looking at gardening and mining as a way to kind of bump up my emissions and yields per day in the near term. So
Yeah, I think if I were to own a hero, it would be like a gardener and a miner for the same exact reasons. And I heard arguments that like maybe miners are like valued right now just because everyone's focused on like the locked aspect. I mean, I'm not like that close to like the marketplace and whatnot, but maybe there's like the game theory too, right? Of like maybe people are just bidding up miners way too high just because everyone thinks that everyone wants to unlock their jewel, so people just bid it higher in hopes of selling it to like the next guy. And
Definitely.
maybe the alpha play is like just buying up a bunch of gardeners because maybe farmers like me, like we just end up like buying your bags or buying your heroes higher or something. So it's definitely interesting, and I feel like that's one of the reasons like this DeFi Kingdoms makes a lot of sense from like a farming perspective. Is like farms I think is like pretty low risk because like I think Jewel is like the price remains relatively stable, right? Like even if it stays at $7 for the next 12 months, I'll be like doing backflips.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And
and
that's something that I've been preaching a lot too, because I'll see, in the Discord, people will be like, "Oh, why is the price down?" And I think it's really, and especially with DeFi Kingdoms, the main goal is to just accumulate Jewel. Like the more Jewel you have, the more, it's not always about just the price increase, because if you're accumulating more and more Jewel, you'll hold more value over time.
yeah, I'm here for the jewel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the running theories I had, because kind of like what you said, Taiki, people were kind of pushing the price of the miners. One of the theories I had was at some point, gardening should feel equally or even more valuable than mining from the locked coins perspective. Because again, every 2 weeks, we're getting a 2% unlock, right?
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
means that new users coming in or, that are farming are going to be locking up an even smaller percentage. And gardeners, they're going to be increasing that pool share more and more as time goes on. And so that's a really interesting game dynamic, like you mentioned there, for farmers.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. What you're gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, it makes sense, and miners, even from the beginning, I mean, from the Gen Zero mint, have been bid up, much higher, and that's really, I mean, we can kind of start seeing that too, as you're starting to see gardeners getting bought up, and I think it's also you're gonna start seeing fishers and foragers being sold at a lower price now because everyone's gonna be, trying to get into the gardeners and miners where it might be a good time to start getting into fishers and foragers because you'll probably see them being sold just because they want to get into the gardening and mining. So,
Right.
Yeah. Can you so let's say Taiki's is in the market and Taiki wants to own some heroes. Like, what metrics should I look at?
do some
And
shop.
so if my goal is to literally just boost my APRs, just ignore the summoning aspect. Like, how should I look into which attributes are most valuable and
Yeah.
whatnot?
I think, yeah, there's two avenues, and Low DeFi is bringing it up here, right? So the first interesting avenue, obviously, is you want the best hero for that profession. So let's just pick gardening, right? So notice at the top there in the third column, you're seeing the sage, right? So sage is the best gardener. When you head over to the market, though, what you're actually going to want to do is you're actually going to want a sage with 0 summons. That's actually what you're going to want. You're going to get the best bang for your buck. The reason for that is each summon on a sage pretty much gives the card price like an 800% premium. So each summon on a sage, the premium is about like 600 to 700 to like 900%. So like for instance, a 0 summon sage will pretty much the farm for you the same as like a sage with more summons. It's just you're not going to be able to spawn more heroes. But realistically, you don't care about that, right? Like the initial attributes of the sage, the growth properties of that sage will, at least for the first 20 levels, give you like really, really nice returns. If you kind of want to go into deeper optimization, there's, various different metrics that, I like to use to figure out like, hey, what's more optimal right now in the current state of the hero market. But ideally, if you just want to grab a hero card, forget about it for gardening, it's definitely a sage that has 0 summons on it right now for like
Can you
90 to
describe the
120
0
jewels.
summon aspect?
Sure. So pull that up, Low DeFi. Click on that hero details on that first sage we were looking at. Yeah. So this sage right here, as you can see, if you look at the summons, it's completely depleted. It's completely drained, right?
Yeah.
So which essentially means that somebody pretty much spawned another hero off of that sage, right? And so the minute that happened, that card immediately got devalued. And so whenever
Gotcha.
I say, yeah. So like normally you want a completely depleted sage hero because again, the premium is going to be extremely low on those because right now what's fueling this market
I
is
see.
summoning.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
see that.
You see that? Yeah. And so, believe it or not, a lot of people don't pay attention to this. There's kind of again like kind of with the game theory here with the market dynamics. Most people will go for like a rare priest or like a rare wizard because wizards and priests are fantastic gardeners. But you're actually not going to get the most out of them, even if they have more summons. If you kind of just want to get a card and just put it in the gardens and forget about it.
Yeah, so
Is
what
that
just to add to that really quick, so he's picking the best gardener right now, like the sage, the paladin, the summoner, the top three, right? But if
right?
you're, this is talking to everyone. This is not specifically to you, Taiki, but this is if people are out there on a budget, whatever it is, any hero will do. You'll
Right.
send them out to do quests, but I think what Superior is doing, or what he's explaining, is that the best bang for your buck, how effective and efficient this will be, is to getting the best of the best, which is the sage at this point, a sage gardener. But yeah, I mean, if you're on a budget, I mean, any floor hero would do just fine.
Yes.
But it's better to have heroes than not, and you can send out 5 rather than spending the 300 for one single sage. Um, just to
Yes,
further
thank you.
elaborate there.
Thank you. Actually, I appreciate that hard abs for clarity, right? Because yes, essentially my point was the best bang for your buck if you kind of have the money to kind of play around with. If you are on a budget, just as Hard Ab said, any hero will essentially do. The way the devs have done it is any profession can do any quest. Even like a bottom floor hero at 40G, or if they start going down to 35G, that will do as well for gardening. It's just, yeah, I think Taiki, he'd probably just want to grab something and kind of just throw it out there and even forget about it, right? Because even for like
Yeah.
the floor heroes, they have summons on them. You see, so like the recommendation that I made to Taiki, there wouldn't be any summons on them. So Taiki actually wouldn't be able to experience some of the other aspects of the game and even make money from some of the other aspects of the game, right? Because one of the money making aspects of the game is taking a floor hero with like 2 3 summons on it, a priest or even a wizard, summon with another hero on it, and you get a lot of value there. And now you have 2 heroes, right? And so one hero you can throw into the gardens, another hero you can throw into fishing or foraging. But see, Taiki, yeah, Taiki's not looking for all of those options at the moment. So I wanted to kind of pinpoint that to him specifically and
Yeah.
other people with maybe the same level of liquidity to play around with.
And
Is to
Superior,
say
can you, just to be mentioning that the professions too. So each hero has a specific profession. So when you're solely looking for gardening, it would also, you don't want like a mining sage. You would want, a gardening sage in the sense that
Right.
you want as much alignment among these things for the most efficiency because, you get like um, you know, a, a gardening ninja is just nowhere near as effective, when it's unaligned as well.
Right, right.
is that because the sage has like the highest wisdom and vitality? Is that like the simplest way to think about it? If you go back to the tab, uh,
So originally,
gardening is based off. Yeah.
yeah, so originally the way, like, I won't say originally, like like maybe like up until the first profession got released, the documentation was pretty much saying that yes, if a hero has a lot of wisdom stats and a lot of vitality stats, when we combine those two together, that should also make that hero be like really, really good at, gardening, let's say specifically, for that particular class. But the game has kind of shifted a little bit. So once the first profession got released, the devs actually boosted the professions specifically a lot more than the stats that are listed on the back of the cards. So believe it or not, just having the profession now actually propels your hero even further beyond, even if that hero doesn't have high wisdom or high vitality listed on the back of the card. So there is that kind of little discrepancy there, and you kind of have to drill into the details. But essentially, if you have higher wisdom stats and higher vitality stats, you also mix that with the gardening profession, your hero will do that much better. If your wisdom stats and your vitality stats aren't that great, have the gardening profession, you're also going to do well, right? It's when you have the high wisdom stats, but you have like a mining profession there, then, well, there's certain diminishing returns that happens for your hero at that point.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds good.
So-
I'll probably buy some gardeners, to be honest.
There we go. We convinced them, guys.
And it's going to be really interesting because they have not given us much information on gardening and how it works. And it's also reassuring for people that maybe aren't doing as much farming that they're still going to be usable. There's like in the other two quests, you can find plants and other items in your inventory that we're going to be able to utilize that might be used to increase stamina or do other things within these heroes that allow them to be more effective down the line. So there's still, use cases regardless of how much you have in the LPs, because I think a lot of people might be worried that, oh, the miners are only for the people that have these large locked balances or the people that are just heavy in the LPs. But I think what's been great is they've allowed it so it's not as, centric to just people with big bags to benefit the most off of this. So it's going to be interesting to see once the numbers come out. Once we get more information, we can kind of start seeing the returns from this. So there's a lot of hype and everyone's really excited because this is now, something I don't think I've ever seen before where, we're using these NFTs to increase our, returns and our ROI and having this crossover between farming and NFT utility. I'm really excited to see how this pans out.
Yeah, it makes sense because it's like a simple ROI equation. Because if I buy a gardener for 100 jewel, like, do I expect to make 100 jewel or more? Then I should just buy it.
Right.
This makes sense. I should. Yeah, I need to look into this more. I just haven't had the time. That's the thing.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of depth there, and I'd say like for me, what I'm most curious about is how quickly will that ROI come, right? Like, so again, like if I buy a gardener for 100 jewels, like, do I expect to get my 100 jewels returned back in 3 weeks, 5 weeks, a couple of months, and I feel like these developers, they definitely feel very smart about how they're going to go about doing it. So I'm very, very curious to see where that fine line is going to be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the team is top notch.
Yeah, if they can get it right, honestly, we could get pretty euphoric.
Yeah. We've seen, there's just so much hype right now and talk. I've just gotten back onto, like the Twitter space with this podcast, and I'm, been following a lot of notable people and seeing this, big excitement for DeFi Kingdoms and, the hype all around it and seeing how it does seem, I'm not trying to be too, hype-ish or pump things up, but the excitement and, the groundbreaking types of interactions between LPing, which, in its sense is a pretty, passive activity. And I think this is something I'd like you to speak about is, this humble farmer's mindset where, when I was doing a lot of LP, you're just kind of sitting there. You shouldn't be really doing much. You're just tending, you're checking your gardens. You're not really tinkering with stuff. And in the crypto space, in some ways it moves so quickly that you need to kind of always be on edge, but then you have this new space in DeFi, and when you're farming, that the best thing you can do is not, just be staring at your screen and letting, you know, the farms do its own thing. And I think just speaking to kind of like that simple farmer's mindset and, you know, taking your time and letting the numbers and the emissions thing is something that DeFi Kingdoms has taught me um, exceptionally well.
Yeah, it's farming is like the ultimate like timing the market beats timing the market, because like I feel like what I've been doing, I was like sitting in my LPs, is giving me more returns than I would have like if I like try to like dump my jewel right before the epoch or right after the epoch and like buy lower, like whatever. It's like I just always assume that like I can't beat the markets. So the best thing for me is to not click buttons, like too many buttons. And, like I have the farmer brand, right? And like people assume that like I farm all the time and stuff. And like I mean I'm farming 24/7, but like I barely click like buttons, right? I just like find farms, I just park capital and I just wait. Right? And I just check all my farms like a couple times a week and I just see number go up, That's I feel like people want to like click buttons a lot just because like, the dopamine addiction, which I understand. Like everyone has dopamine addiction, but sometimes the best thing you can do is just like find things you're bullish on and just like farm the hell out of it.
No, I
Right.
know I have a quick question about this farming life. Just when do you decide? Because I know you don't really follow TA that much, right? I think that's what you mentioned on one of your videos, or a few of them. But when do you decide whether when something falls, or like say there's FUD on ETH network, whatever it is, or AVAX, whatever. When do you decide, hey, it's time to wrap things up on this farm. I'm going to take my profits. I'm going to go on to the next one. Or do you base it off of a certain time frame when it comes to a certain farm on a certain L1? But yeah, I just wanted to ask that quick question there.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, Jewel $8, we call it that the Taiki pump. But
Oh yeah,
anyways,
the hype.
so I mean, so I don't do like. So the thing is, I don't trade. I definitely look at technicals. But I'm self-aware that enough that like I understand like I'm not the best trader. So like given I know that I should focus more on farming and like and my edge is time horizon and like just superior research compared to like to the market. And whenever I do exit or enter, I look more into like relative valuations. So it actually works too. Like recently, I think October or like November, like I bought FTM and I sold the top at like 320 or something, just because it entered the top 25, and that didn't make sense to me. So I just like de-risked, and it's like it's not too complicated. It's just like I feel like crypto assets, it's so hard to value them because like how do you value Luna versus AVAX, right? Like there's no model, just because I mean like you can't. I mean there's like no cash flow, I guess. So it's like purely based on sentiment. So just looking at relative valuations, it can help you like figure out like entries and like exits. And it doesn't work all the time, right? Like so I sold the top on FTM and then I tried to buy the dip and then it just kept going lower. So like it sometimes it's like not perfect, but I think
Let me
relative
ask you.
valuations make it. Yeah, go for it.
Sure. On this topic too, Taiki, let me ask you a question. What would be some clear stay away from this farm type of signs that kind of help you navigate that space, since a lot of them pop up?
Oh, like just in general?
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean you have to look at the fundamentals. Like I mean, I've definitely entered farms with zero fundamentals just to like farm and dump, but like yeah, there's that. It's definitely like how the farms. First of all, like what fundamentals do they have, right? And if you can see that, or can you think? Do you think that there's going to be like natural buy pressure for this token, not to farm, but like just to hold? That's one. I think how the farm is designed is also important. Like I've seen farms where like, for example, let's say there's like a Taiki farm, right? And there's a Taiki token, and it's the Taiki USDC pair, the pool two, the farm token pair. Let's say it's like 1,000% and APY, and let's say there's like a Bitcoin ETH pair paying like 600%, and the stablecoin pair paying like 200%. That's like poor farm design, just because everyone is just gonna enter like the Bitcoin ETH and stablecoin pairs just to like farm the token, and there's not gonna be that much demand to enter the pool two, which is like the Taiki USDC and Taiki ETH or whatever.
Right.
So like I've definitely like, so for example, it's like I enter like this new ecosystem, and it's like there's two farms, and one is poorly designed and one is, I mean, they're both like shit farms, to be honest, but one has this better design, so I just entered that one, and it's outperforming, and I definitely I'm gonna sell this. I'm not gonna mention it because it's like a little market cap and whatever, but there is no fundamentals, but like just simply from the tokenomic design, I just I just entered that. And what else is there? Yeah, just manage risk. Like all farms, or 95% of farms go to zero. The token goes to zero. So never marry a token. It's like I get a bunch of hate just because like I'm generally like bearish like farm tokens. And I say that in my videos, and then people are just like, they just attack me because like they own a bunch of that, right? And it's like I'm just like, like, 'cause at the end of the day, it's like supply and demand, and even if a project does have fundamentals, like if it's like being farmed to death, then like the token might go down, like even if it has good fundamentals. So
Yeah.
If you're emitting $1 million of tokens a day, but there's like $800,000 of like buy pressure, then it's gonna go down. Like this, just a simple math equation. So if you just think of farms as like a mathematical phenomenon, then it's really easy to understand that like it's just gonna go down. Like with Jewel, there's buy pressure. That's the thing.
Right.
There's actual. That's the only reason it's going up. Yeah, so that's the fundamentals, right? Like, yes, high emissions, but like, how many people are buying? How many people are selling? Oh, more people are buying. Okay, it's gonna go up. And can I see that continuing in the future? Yes. Therefore, I will keep farming and not selling. Yeah.
So I have a question to add on to this, and this is kind of circling back to DeFi Kingdoms. Obviously, you read the docs. We all read the docs. Do you see any? And I'm just wondering about the negative side, if there is any. And I'm sure I'm just curious of what you think, Taiki. Are there negative sides that you see with DeFi Kingdoms, and what you would like to see, kind of being implemented?
Negatives. I guess there's like the play to. Sorry, there's the P to V, PvP, like player versus player, like 3v3 or whatever. Like I don't know how that's gonna turn out. I feel like that's gonna be a really difficult thing to like implement. I don't know how it's gonna look. I mean, Axie, if you look at the gameplay of Axie, it's like super basic and like maybe it's not that difficult, but maybe that takes a long time to develop. So I think it's like all execution risk, just because I think there's a lot of hype for DeFi Kingdoms, right? And I think there is like some level of perfection priced in, which given the team's track record, I feel like it's justified, right? Because all they do is ship, and they're really thoughtful about how they design things. So I think execution risk is one. Maybe Harmony, the chain just dies for like whatever reason. Like I'm glad they're expanding to Avalanche, and I'm sure they'll expand it like Smart Chain or Polygon or Phantom, like whatever those EVM chains that can like mitigate some downside. guess I feel like all the people playing the game is like people speculating, right? I mean, people. I mean, I've talked to people. They think it's like really fun and whatnot, but for this to succeed and reach like Axie level, like it has to scale to like like a bunch of users that's like actually playing the game and like actually implementing play to earn. Axie, I think recently, the data shows that like the earning power of players are going down. So like I don't know how sustainable DeFi Kingdoms is going to be. There's no way to know just because it's like not available yet. But I think those are some risks. But even with those risks, I still think that it's fine just because it's like relative to other games, like so cheap. It's like Decentraland and Sandbox, like top 50 tokens or whatever, and like they have no users. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I used to. Yeah, I used to be like pretty bearish like games in general, just because like there are no users. But I think there's beauty in like the simplistic nature of DeFi Kingdoms, because I see all these like MMORPG games like on Solana and stuff getting like crazy valuations. I'm super bearish those games just because like why would I trust like a 5-person, 10-person crypto team to like build a game, right? It doesn't make any sense. I'd rather bet on like Blizzard or something. But something like DeFi Kingdoms, which is like more simple, and it's like like pixelated and whatnot, I feel like its execution risk is lower, and I mean people are playing it too, so as long as that continues, then I feel like it will catch a bid. I mean it's already caught a bid, but it will continue to catch a bid.
Yeah, I mean on DApp Radar, I'm not sure if you have this up, Low DeFi, but it's really showing that DeFi Kingdoms is number 2 across the board when it comes to volume, users, and it says balance. But if you want to sift that up really quick, yep, yeah, you can see right there. Oh, blockchain RPG.
It's probably
Yeah,
an anomaly. That's 24 hours.
yeah, that's 24 hours. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
It's fake. It's
6,000
fake.
users, 2.5 billion. I mean, who knows?
yeah,
I think it's not
6.3K
real.
users. Not really. I don't know, but yeah, look at the balance. It's 0. So that's a misnomer right there. But yeah, if you look at Axie, we're looking at 4.4 billion, and then DeFi Kingdoms being basically 11 billion. I don't know. I think we're really catching up. If we can snag Axie Infinity users, kind of move it over to Harmony and DeFi Kingdoms, I think we're probably gonna. And I'm just gonna throw a random crazy valuation out there, but probably by end of next year, we're gonna see contention with Axie.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people come into DeFi Kingdoms and they'll be like, "Oh, this is, my first experience with DeFi in general or learning the LPs." And I know this is something you mentioned as why part of the bullish case is the way that LPs and farming is kind of displayed and presented to people here is it's obviously super visual, and it's a very great introductory for people getting into DeFi, getting into LPs, yielding, and I tell them you're very lucky if this is your first introduction to, because this has been easily the most comfortable farming experience I've had. You've noted it's super comfortable, and it's I tell them it's not always like this, and I'm super grateful for finding this project and being able to even explain the beauty of DeFi to other people using this as like an example, because you have all of the you have the decks built within, the visualization, you have like the seeds and the integrating the idea of farming, you know built right in with it. You have the seeds, you plant the seeds in the garden. Jewel, on the is growing, you're increasing your yield, you can harvest your yield. It's quite amazing how they've been able to introduce this to a lot of people, so it's very
Yeah, and
exciting.
I like how it's like all bootstrapped by the team too. It's like no VCs, so
Right.
like, I know like
That's
a
really impressive.
yeah, I know like a fund that like is also very bullish, and like they had to just TWAP into the token, like on the open market. Like
Yeah.
they can't DM Fox and be like, hey, like can I buy 10 million like
Right.
20% discount?
OTC trade.
And then Fox is like, no, fuck off, just buy from the market, pump Taiki's
Yeah.
bags, pump low DeFi's bags, just
Exactly. I'm be farming. Yeah, it's great, and it's and now you've got NFTs because I see a lot of people outside of the NFTs or that aren't really versed in this new upcoming NFT craze where they're like, oh, it's just a JPEG. What am I going to do with this? And then here, and I'm sitting here with these heroes that I can help earn myself yield and utilize, and it just seems like they're really pushing the boundaries here in all these aspects. It's quite amazing that you have a accumulation of all of these, things a part of this crypto, bull run this year. I mean, NFTs and DeFi have really kind of led the pack. Um, so it's and it's like again, not near any farms, LPs, and NFTs really compete in that way that I've seen, and I'm sure there's projects, and I think that's what led to their expansion is like what Hard Abs has mentioned before is they don't want someone copying them on a different chain. The opportunity cost of not going to AVAX was incredibly bullish right now, and these other chains is extremely high because there's a huge user base to grasp there and continue to grow this, um, you know, expand this map, expand the world, and expand like the lore that we have.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just to add to that, I mean, they had the decision to expand to any other, chain. And so what I was looking at, I was like, all right, well, we all heard the rumors of FTM and that was probably like the first guess, right, with majority of the folks, hearing that. But they actually went for the big instead of going for the apple, right, the low hanging fruit. They went for the entire tree and went right to AVAX. Like that says something, and I don't I think that speaks volumes when you talk about which when they really selected an L1 to go after, and they went after AVAX, and that's just amazing because I would not have guessed AVAX at all because they have so much liquidity. They're probably second fiddle to ETH. Um, what's that?
no, I'm just looking at the AVAX chart right now.
Oh, I thought you I thought you told me to shush because I was
Oh
maybe
no, I was like,
no, because I thought
Yeah,
that
no, everything's pumping right now. It's like
everything, yeah, some
even Harmony
positive
is
news with
pumping 11%.
yeah, the Fed news, super positive.
FOMC to FOMO.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Happening.
just saying that they went right to the for the entire the big tree instead of like picking the whole low hanging fruit.
right.
Thought that was huge.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of all of you guys too, Taiki, Hard Abs, and even Low DeFi, like me, what really also makes me so bullish on this project is the fact that they're meeting the needs of two of the most important people in crypto. One, they're meeting the need of the farmer. Then they're also meeting the need of folks looking for some kind of utility because there's so many other shit coins out there, right? And each of those two aspects is like kind of funneling back and forth into each other. Because, for instance, the fact that I'm addicted to summoning is actually pumping Taiki's bag right now, right?
Right.
And then the fact that Taiki's staying in the LP is kind of actually helping me back out as well. So there's really a great dynamic in the system. That structure and token design, I really feel like kind of fuels itself. Um, and the fact that we're gonna keep getting farmers to come here who don't even care about the game, but the coin is kind of just gonna steadily increase over time or just stay steady, it's perfect for both parties.
Yeah, it's a farmer's habit. I'm surprised that people haven't picked up on it yet. I just feel like it's one of the more obvious bets in crypto. It has all the narratives. It's cross chain, DeFi, gaming, play to earn, NFTs. It's like even if like there's like a bump on the road, like it's like crypto is driven on narratives, and I feel like the jewel narrative is gonna keep chugging along. And over time, I think when it expands to Avalanche, people will finally like see the value in it, and maybe that's the ultimate like
Yeah, that's the explosion.
beginning
Huh?
of the ultimate pump,
Yeah.
right? It's like I've been hyping up DeFi Kingdoms for it's like 2 months now, and it's I don't know. I feel like people still haven't caught on, or maybe they have, and maybe I'm shilling the top or something. But I don't know. I'm very convicted in this. It's like, whether you're a gamer or a farmer, like you just enter this, you just like check up on it. If you play, you can play every day, or if you're farming it, you just like check up on it like once a week. And when I've talked to in my community, like they just think DeFi Kingdom is like the best farm ever. Like it just outperforms everything, and people are trying to like flip like home forks left and right. And I just tell them like you're probably just better off farming Jewel.
Hey, well, it's funny because it's like last month, maybe a little bit further back than that, a lot of big bag holders dumped Jewel to go flip and farm Trank. I was like, why would you do that? Why would you leave what's steady, stable, and slowly growing and will always give you a return for something so dicey? So I
Yeah,
agree with you, Taiki. I agree
I
with you.
wish I was talking to you, Superior, before, and I would have gotten that advice earlier because I took profits into Trank, and here we are.
Lesson learned. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's been a great experience so far, and it's we're still so early in on the roadmap, and I think the farming experience so far has allowed them time to get the supply out there and allow the devs to prove themselves, and um, it's going to be really exciting. I mean, we're right on the eve of gardening quests, and this is going to be a whole new aspect to the farms and the LPs, and we'll see if it can really set it back up and see what the returns are going to be. So it's really exciting, and we're super appreciative what you've done for the community already with your analysis of the farms and the exposure you've given to it, and it's it's been needed, and you mentioned it too. It's like, why aren't people talking about this, or why is there not as much hype? Whether it might be just being on the Harmony chain, or there's always you know reasons for people to be tread lightly in the beginning. So, but it's
Yeah, I often say like their ignorance is your alpha. And I think that's a good way to put it. And like Harmony, like I think the chain itself is like weaker in on the fundamental side, so I think people just ignore it. But I think because without DeFi Kingdoms, the chain itself is like it's like what do you do, So, but once I think it just takes time, and as a farmer, like I don't really like I appreciate that it's not catching on because I get to farm more
yeah.
Jewel.
Yeah, the longer time we have to just accumulate more and more Jewel, and then when they start really, everyone else starts piling in, and we're already, sitting real pretty. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
win-win. Any other questions, Superior Hard Abs?
Oh, that was great. Thank
No,
you
that's awesome.
so much, Taki.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on to the show. I mean, this is our third episode. We've really wanted to get, this longer form conversation with people bullish on DFK within the community, and, with someone of your stature and voice and exposure out there. It really means a lot to us for you to come on and discuss the farming and letting us talk to you about the heroes and the other aspects of DeFi Kingdoms.
Yeah, and yeah, I appreciate you guys starting this too, because like one of the reasons I also got super bullish DFK in like early September was because like I think Tosh, crypto with Tosh, he had a channel dedicated to DeFi kingdoms. I think that was like holy. Like I was like, dang, like this guy, he's so bullish that he literally made a channel just for this. I was like,
Right.
okay, like that's really cool. Then there was like I think a few months ago, there's like a banger, this music, this like hip hop. They call it like I don't know. It's on SoundCloud. It's such a banger. And I'm like, holy shit! Like this guy literally made a song about Jewel. And when I
Yeah.
saw JEWELCAST and like the guilds like Jewel Boys and DFK DAO, I'm like,
Right.
okay, yeah, like there's definitely something here, and I appreciate the work that you do, and hopefully the work that you'll do in the future as well.
Thank you, Taiki. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, and then
I-
maybe next time when we have you back on, we can do a few summonings and potentially give that away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, why not?
Taiki turns into a big NFT collector soon.
Yeah, and let us know. Reach out to us if you need any help with any particular, heroes that you see in the tavern.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll ask you questions on hero stuff too, because
Awesome.
I'm a pleb. I'm a noob.
Well, we got the guys for you. So yeah, that's gonna wrap up this episode. Super informative. We're really excited for gardening to come out. Should be a lot of hype. Get some good info, data, and hopefully the yields increase. And yeah, stay farming. And we'll talk to everyone soon.